Hey everybody, Drew here with National Kids Yoga Conference. I'm really honored today to be joined by Dr. Christopher Willard. For those who either don't know or may not be too familiar, Dr. Christopher Willard is a psychologist and educational consultant based in Boston and specializing in mindfulness. Now, he's been practicing meditation for 20 years and has led hundreds of workshops around the world with invitations to more than 24 countries. He currently serves on the board of directors at the Institute for Meditation and Psychotherapy and is the president of the Mindfulness and Education Network. Now, he's presented at TEDx conferences and his thoughts have appeared in the New York Times, the Washington Post, mindful.org, and elsewhere. He's the author of the 2010 Child's Mind, Growing Up Mindful from 2016, and 2017's Raising Resilience, and 8 other books for parents, professionals, and children, along with 6 sets of cards and therapeutic games available in more than 10 languages. Now, he teaches at Harvard Medical School, and on the personal side, he enjoys traveling, hiking, cooking, reading, writing. Perhaps more importantly, he enjoys just being a father. So he told us we can refer to him as Chris. Chris, welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Drew. It is so good to see you. Thank you so much for having me. This is such a treat, such a wonderful conference and organization, and I'm just thrilled to be here.
Thank you. We're glad to have you. I think the first time I saw you was a few years back in Alexandria, Virginia, and you shared out Alphabreaths with us. So it's a personal treat.
The debut.
That's right. That's
yeah,
right. That's right. Well, before we actually get into the book, if it's okay, if you could just give us an introduction on your end, just as far as how you even began practicing mindfulness. What was it that brought you to it?
Absolutely. I think there's kind of two versions of the story. And one is that when I was a kid, I had many experiences that were something like mindfulness before I ever heard that word. And I think a lot of us grown-ups did as well. I remember I went to this really sweet nature camp when I was a kid, and my son actually was there last summer too, like just a day camp. But they'd say, let's go in the woods and let's walk as silently as we can in the woods. And if you've ever tried to walk silently, like you're not thinking about the past or the future, you're only thinking about the soles of your feet and the texture of the ground. And so when I took a mindfulness course years later, I was like, oh, they didn't call it mindful walking, but it was kind of mindful walking. Or like sitting in the woods, they'd say like, let's listen to all the sounds in the forest, in the silence. And, maybe they're just trying to get us to shut up, right? I don't know, right? But it was like, suddenly I noticed it's like, oh, the trees are whispering, the brook is babbling in the distance. And it was kind of magical, or just like watching clouds in the sky with my dad, like appearing and disappearing, changing shape, like these experiences that, meant so much to me that then when I was older and I was actually having some difficulties, my life kind of fell apart a little bit when I was in college. And I then discovered mindfulness by the name mindfulness. It took me back to these other experiences. And it was so helpful to me to feel more creative and more connected and happier and less stressed, and just like a fuller person, just experiencing life in its fullness, which to me is so much of what life is about and mindfulness is about, and curious about life. I feel like mindfulness is also about curiosity about ourselves and the world. And that's a little bit of my journey. I could go on and on about it, but I also know we've got other things to get to. So that's me.
No, thank you for that, Chris. It's really insightful. That really just brings me then to the question, what was it, or at what point did you say, hey, this has benefited me so much? Let's make sure then that not just parents, but maybe their children or young people that they know can be exposed to that same gift.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it really was like having a hard time when I was in my late teens, early 20s, stumbling into mindfulness. My parents kind of dragged me on this retreat with Thich Nhat Hanh, who some folks might know. And I was like, what is this going to be? And it was totally transformative for me. And that's when I was like, I want to figure out how to share this. And I worked as a special education teacher for a couple of years. And then I became a clinical psychologist, and, now doing consulting work as well as being a therapist. And it just feels so rewarding and so fun. And to be sharing these practices with young people, and just watching the movement and the kind of work that you're doing and so many people all over the world are doing. to just bring that kind of wonder and delight and joy and curiosity and mindfulness kind of back into childhood. And I think that's going to really serve future generations really well. I certainly hope it does. Made my life's work out of it, so I hope it does.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Well, you're certainly doing the work. And so, without too much further ado, again, this we're just going to take some time here to talk through, or allow you to take us through just a little bit of alpha breaths. You know, shameless plug for you. I hope you don't mind, but for those of us who feel like we're just really on the run, you are welcome to make the purchase, online as well. And Chris, if you can just show us the book and maybe share some of your favorite parts of Alpha Breaths with us, just in your own way. Floor is yours.
Absolutely. And I think actually I appreciate that you said in your own way, because one of the things that Daniel Retchoffen, who's my good buddy, mindfulness educator who I wrote this book with, we really want anyone using this book to have it be an inspiration, so that we've got instructions in here for alligator breath and elevator breath and things like that. But we really want you to make it yours. And we want you to go out there and make your own breaths up. And in fact, we've now gotten so many emails from Australia and South Africa and Singapore and Canada and all over the world with cool new ideas from classroom teachers and from kids everywhere, that we have a sequel coming out, Alphabreaths 2, next year. And although my son likes to call it Too Many Alphabreaths, but he actually contributed some ideas as well. But it was just so much fun to create this book. And I'll just share a couple of the practices with you. So we've got A for alligator breath and B for butterfly breath. And I'll share these and a couple of stories about them. So the alligator breath, we can put our big jaws out like this, and we can breathe in and breathe out and breathe in and breathe out. And what's really fun is that I was at a conference once somewhere outside of Philadelphia a couple of years ago, and this woman said, Chris, I really like that alligator breath, and my daughter really loves it, but she's getting kind of old. She's in like 3rd grade now. She's feeling stressed out. She doesn't want to do a big alligator breath in class because she feels a little silly doing that. But you know what she does, Chris? She does baby alligator breaths under her desk. She just does, no one has to notice. She goes breathing in and breathing out, breathing in and breathing out. And no one has to know that she's doing an alligator breath, to just help herself settle down. And kind of, I like to say, you're the reset button in your body. It's at the bottom of your lungs. And if you breathe deeply enough, you hit that reset button and it can just calm you back down. Because as you regulate your breath, you're regulating your body and your nervous system and your brain, and then you can regulate your impulses and your emotions and your focus. And that's kind of the magic of breathing. It really is like a remote control for our bodies and brains. So that's the alligator breath. There's also the butterfly breath, which you can do a few different ways, just gently flapping our wings, breathing in and breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, and maybe even some baby butterfly breaths. And what's been so fun about writing these books and sharing them is that I learn a lot. So, and someone else in the audience at a different conference said, she was a yoga teacher, and she said, this is a great chest extender. And I was like, I don't even know what that means, but I guess that's really good for you. So like, great, who knew? But these different ways that we can do things. So that's the alligator breath and the butterfly breath. Those are just a few fun ones. Also got the elevator breath, which I really like. This is one that I've also had kids really make better than what we put in the book. So the elevator breath, you can just breathe in and then hold and breathe back out. And some kids were saying you can stop at the bottom floor and open the elevator doors, let some good feelings in, let some not so good feelings out, let the doors close. Elevator going back up again. Let some feelings in. Maybe you've got a meditation bell, a mindfulness bell, to ring the bell before you start doing your elevator breaths. right? Different kinds of fun stuff like that. So different ways to make that elevator breath a lot of fun too. One of my favorites recently has been the ice breath, maybe because it was such a hot summer. So I thought a lot about the ice breath or the iceberg breath. And we had originally wrote it, sit like you're frozen in ice and notice how your body feels. But what I like even better is breathe in and freeze your whole body like you're frozen in ice. And then breathe out, let yourself melt a little bit. Breathe in, freeze your body in a block of ice. And then just let yourself melt a little more. Breathe in again. And just melting a little bit more. And that's the ice breath, because when we tense up our muscles and we relax them, it actually teaches our bodies how to relax. And that's a really important skill that we can learn at even a really young age. So it's really important for that. One of my favorites, and a lot of favorites, is the superhero breath, S. And because of copyright licensing issues, we have to say, breathe in and imagine you're a superhero, and breathe out, imagine how you'll help someone. Because remember, superheroes are really about helping people, right? Being a good friend, helping people who need help. But when we're not faced with copyright issues, we can also do things like put your hands on your hips, breathe in like Superman, and breathe out, up and away. Or a woman at my workshop, right after the Black Panther movie came out, she said, you can do a Black Panther breath, breathe in, like you're absorbing all that energy, and breathe out, shoot it back out again. And I don't actually know how mindful these superhero breaths are, but you know what? They're awesome. And they teach us how to notice our breath. And that's really fun. So you can make up whoever your favorite superhero is. And there's also N for the ninja breath, which can be really fun. We also have T for the teddy bear breath, which can help us to fall asleep. If you've got a favorite teddy bear or stuffy, lovey, my son's got baby Abby, his lion, just put your stuffy on your belly and just feel your breath rocking your teddy bear to sleep, up and down, up and down. W is for the wish breath. And you can breathe in and just make a happy wish for yourself. And breathe out, make a happy, kind wish for a friend or someone you love. Like you're blowing out the candles in a cake. And I've started a new tradition when it comes to cakes and birthdays. And actually, C is for the cake breath in this book. And it's whenever you make a wish, we do this in my family now, you actually get 3 wishes. You get a wish for yourself, and a wish for someone in your family, and a wish for the whole world. And then you have 3 wishes that you can make. So I'm a big believer in, when I was little, I used to always be like, I'm going to wish for more wishes. But this is a way to do wish for more wishes. You get a wish for yourself, a wish for friends and family, then a wish for the whole world. And no book for kids would be complete without falling asleep at the end. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, Drew, but in a lot of kids' books, everyone falls asleep at the end. Spoiler alert. But Y is for the mindful yawn, and Z is for the mindful.
I love that.
Okay, well, thank you for letting me read some of my favorite Alphabreaths, and feel free to stay in touch, ask any other questions. If you've got suggestions for Alphabreaths 2 or Alphabreaths 3 or whatever Daniel and I do next, please let us know. And I hope you'll have me back, but I'm happy to stick around for a few more questions if you've got them, anyone in the audience.
That was really awesome. Thank you for that, Chris. When you're sharing that with us, the things that came up for me was equity, was vulnerability, and was curiosity. I mean, obviously, there's a great variety of different poses, of different breaths, of different representations of young people in your illustrations. I love that. I love the fact that you even started off by talking about presenting breath and mindful activity in your own way and leaving room for people to make contributions. And then when I think about curiosity and imagination, I remember seeing you in person, and so much of what you had shared with us then was about the power. I remember it as unleashing the power of your creative imagination, right? And if you could just briefly, in your own way, again, just kind of speak to how much of that seems to inform your work, whether that's the printed word or even in your presentations and consulting. Like, this is why it's so important that we just authentically approach these mindfulness practices.
Absolutely. And I think we've got to embody this stuff as the grown-ups or the older kids who are teaching, maybe younger kids. We've got to embody this, because sometimes going out there teaching young people, like something goes wrong or something goes sideways or a kid gets a little bit silly or who knows what, we've got to be able to respond in the moment, right? And be able to adapt and pull back and shift gears a little bit and be flexible. I think that's like one of the challenges and also one of the rewards of working with kids. And I feel like every time I get a challenging question, either from a child or from an adult, like I don't take that as a personal challenge. I try to really take it as, how can I make this better? How can this feed my creativity to create something that's even better? Like when someone points something out that's missing in one of my books, or that should be in one of my books or in one of my presentations, I try to just have that feed my creative process to just make something better that can really help more people is what I feel. And I think it's interesting with mindfulness, because I think it's really important that we be respectful of where a lot of these practices come from, and we really honor that. And at the same time, it's also really important to reach the most people possible with these practices that are so helpful, to also let them evolve, and let kids let them evolve, and let new teachers let them evolve, and bring in different kinds of voices and different kinds of perspectives. And I think just sort of holding the balance between those two is a little bit of a koan, like a little bit of like a Zen riddle. How do we both like honor these practices and let them evolve for the present day and age that we're in, that our kids are in, and the challenges that they face? And I think just being able to hold both of those things is really important, that we find a way to do that. So yeah, thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you. One other question, then, if we may, maybe even two. I hear you speak about respecting, the origins of some of these practices. So many of our members are either already in public school spaces or looking to push into education spaces. Maybe a two-part question here, Chris, if you don't mind. One, if you could speak to the importance of bringing reflective practices or mindfulness or meditation into education spaces. And if you have any particular, best practices or tips in, again, sustaining that sense of safety, equity, curiosity, please feel free to share.
I think as we think about bringing this into education, I think it's important to look at all of the roots of all of these mindfulness practices we have today. But the fact that silence and contemplation, like these have been a big part of education all over the world, in Europe and Asia and Africa and South America and North America and so many different parts of the world. We need silence and we need stillness. And our phones and our devices, maybe they give us some stillness, but they don't give us a lot of silence. And I think that's why one of the reasons why we need mindfulness more than ever. And I think also as we go into different kinds of schools and different kinds of settings, I think it's really important that we bring along all kinds of different teachers who are sharing from their background and letting things kind of like intermingle, and again, honoring where practices come from, but also making them theirs and allowing kids to make them theirs with their background, their culture, their age, their mental health issues, or their, what their learning styles, or, their excitement and their interests and their own culture. And I think that's so important, and it's really challenging, but I think it's so important if we want these practices to continue to grow and evolve and reach the most people and be of benefit to the most people and young people. I think that's a really big, important part of it. And I really think, finding ways to teach with integrity is really important, so that these practices don't get watered down. And yet also at the same time, like, I like to say this in my talks often, like we don't, kids learn math in school, but we don't start with calculus. We start with 1 + 1. Is superhero breathing mindfulness? It's not really, but it's teaching kind of the elements of how to like have the breath be fun, and then you can have the breath be something you're aware of, and then the breath can be your guide, and then the breath can be a bit more of the object of attention if you do develop a deeper mindfulness practice, which not everyone needs to do to go on retreats and all that stuff. Just like not everyone needs to learn calculus to be able to be a functioning member of society, right? And I think remembering that too, that what we're trying to do is teach kids some of the elements, especially when they're young, and they may or may not grow into what we think of as like a formal practice, but that can still be really beneficial for those kids.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it seems like, there's so much fun and joy that you get a chance to experience as you're even just talking about these concepts, let alone, sharing it, doing it for yourself. Is there a particular age group or grade maybe that you notice you're having more fun with more often?
It's been fun. I used to like, I started getting a lot more into like having fun working with teens and young adults. And now I've got my own kids. I've got a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old who may actually barge in at any moment. We'll see. Right. But like, and my son, like, he doesn't always do these practices. And he, recently he was learning how to spell a couple of years ago, and he's asked me how to spell breathing. And I'm like, BRE. And I watch him like write, breathing, and then takes a big red marker and makes a circle and a slash through it. He's like, no more breathing. So we got to make it fun. But I really think getting kids involved in creative, like he doesn't love to read Alphabreaths. Like he reads it when I'm out of town actually, but he doesn't really want to like do breathing when I suggest it. But he loves making practices. And when he makes the practices, he does them. So for Alphabreaths too, we've got drawbridge breath, which is going to be like a 2-kid practice where you like breathe in and do the drawbridge and breathe back out. And he's so into that because he invented it. Just like a lot of educators, I know one of the things they do in their classrooms with Alphabreaths is they take it and they're like, everyone come up with a new breath for your own name, or, do something kind of fun like that. And I think that's a way to make it fun. So I'm having a lot of fun with the little kids. My daughter's in preschool and doing some stuff with her. So that's being a really fun kind of alive age right now. And that's where a lot of my next few writing projects are really aimed at too. But I'm also writing a book for grownups. So, I'm all over the place with all of it, just wherever the muse kind of takes me. So, yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really beautiful. So listen, so you're talking about you're making some sequels to your books. What are some ways that people can get in touch with you via social media if they want to contribute or maybe have some follow-up questions from today's share?
Absolutely. Please get in touch. You can, my website, drchristoferwillard.com, drchristoferwillard.com. You can get on my mailing list. You can actually get free cards from Alphabreaths. My social media, I'm just at Dr. Chris Willard, Dr. Chris Willard. And I do every single day, I present a challenge. So this month of September has been kind of a mindful back to work challenge. There's little things to notice. I do a mindful eating challenge. Last month I did a mindful walking movement challenge. Next month is going to be a little bit more about mindfulness in nature and being aware of our impact on the earth. So October, each day a little challenge, and that's at Dr. Chris Willard. And then I do lots of workshops, school visits, virtual school visits, workshops, trainings. Happy to come anywhere. Went to the kids yoga conference a few years ago. Would love to come back and see the whole crew again, like once we're back in person. And I'll
That's right.
at least
That's
like
right.
to do that and give you a hug in person. And because hugging breath is one of the breaths, right? Consensual hugging breath, I should say. But that'll be awesome when we're back in person. Through this challenging time. But thank you so much, Drew, for the way that you've hosted and presented, interviewed me, and thank you to the National Kids Yoga Conference. So it's such a treat. Thank you. I'm so honored to be here.
Well, we're honored to have you. We're actually appreciative, Chris, that we have the opportunity with you to announce a winner for our contest. Right? Here we go. I know.
Get my marker out now to sign this, right?
That's right. That's right. Our winner is drumroll breath. Jen Bird. Congratulations, Jen. So look forward to receiving your copy of Alphabreaths. Chris, any final word before we let you go here today?
I just want to thank you so much again. Thank you also for just trying to reach so many kids during this pandemic. There are so many kids that are hard to reach in general. The work that you're all doing is so important, and I think especially in these last 18 months has been more helpful than ever. And just knowing how hard you're working to continue to reach educators, to continue to reach parents, to continue to reach child professionals and children, I'm just really grateful for the work that you're continuing to do through this hard time that hopefully we're starting to come out of soon. So I just want to say thank you.
Chris, Dr. Christopher Willard, we thank you. Thank you again. Thanks for all of you for joining us. And we'll see you at the next Read Aloud. Till then, be well.
Bye-bye.